Hi, this is Bob Viden, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Viden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle.sportshop.com.
What does it take to be the leader in production systems technology? To be the one company that solves production problems at any plant, for any product, and with any technology? It takes a 30-year record of success. It takes total mastery of complex technologies with a history of delivering success every time, without fail. Only one company can claim that high ground in manufacturing line optimization, data automation, and systems integration, and that's Philadelphia Control Systems. In factories worldwide, Philadelphia Control Systems programs, software, and engineering solutions deliver optimal performance and output flow with a record that can't be matched. Any plant, any product, any technology. Philadelphia Control Systems, the leader in production automation since 1982. 800-335-9811. PCS4automation.com. That's PCS, the number 4, automation.com.
Oh, how I'm longing for the day when I'm back at Orchid Bay, where the silver water glistens in the sun.
When is the last time you raced a small boat across wide open water? Tired of snow, traffic jams, cold weather? You need a refreshing change of scenery, a world away. The Bahama Islands have vacation rental homes and apartments. Enjoy spectacular nature in the Abacos Islands. Enjoy refreshing Caribbean beauty, fishing, snorkeling, scuba, the beach. www.enjoyabaco.com. That's ABACO. Enjoyabaco.com.
As I sail across the sea of Abaco, smiling 'cause I know only one more mile to go.
Enjoyabaco.com.
Hello, I'm Reverend Carl Kelly, and I head up the Frederick Douglass Foundation of Indiana. President Obama's attacks on the Constitution continues to be aided and abetted by one of his trusted allies in Congress, ultra-liberal Democrat Andre Caution of Indianapolis, nationally known for his infamous racial rants against the Tea Party. I want to tell you about J.D. Manier. J.D. will be a representative for the people of the 7th District. J.D. Manier is a pro-growth Reagan conservative and is co-host of the conservative Commandos Radio show. He is asking you to join his army of supporters in order to defeat Carson and go to Washington to demand special prosecutors for Benghazi, the IRS, and other scandals. J.D. is interested in what's good for the people of the 7th District, not Nancy Pelosi. He will promote strong economic growth and jobs by getting the government off the backs of the people, voting for tax cuts and slashing regulations. Help elect a pro-life defender of freedom who will strongly support Israel, vote to cut wasteful spending, and battle to repeal Obama's socialist agenda. Log on to ManierForCongress.com and donate today. That's MINIEAR for Congress.com. Paid for and authorized by the J.D. Manier for Congress Committee.
I'm J.D. Manier, candidate for the U.S. House of Representatives, Indiana District 7, and I approve of this message.
from the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the Internet. We're coming to you live from the CCRS studios, WNJC 1360 and WIFI 1460. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show with your host, Rick Trader. The Conservative Commandos radio show, where the newsmakers go to be heard. Businessman there, drink my wine. You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
Welcome, everybody, and welcome, fellow patriots. Welcome once again to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show. I am Rick Trader, coming to you live from the CCRS studios, that of WNJC 1360, our flagship station in Philadelphia, and around the world on the Internet via our new Internet broadcast partners, CPRWorldwideMedia.com, PatriotsRide.org, and VigilantLibertyRadio.us. And joining me today, as he usually does on Wednesday afternoon, is my co-host du jour, Jonathan Mosley. John, welcome to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show.
Always great to be here, Rick Trader.
Well, John, we do have a great show lined up for our listeners today, and actually we do have our first guest on the line with us, John. And with that, John Mosley, could you please make the introduction?
All right, great. Daniel Horowitz is the policy director for the Madison Project and a contributing writer and legislative writer for Red State and a frequent columnist. Also, he's a government relations intern, or he was a government relations intern at the Federation for Immigration Reform. Daniel Horowitz received a dual major degree from the University of Maryland, University College in Finance and Political Science. Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show, Daniel Horowitz.
Great to be with you, Jonathan and Rick. It's been too long.
It has been, and that's the thing. We kind of juggled this in the first half hour because you're much more interesting than Rick Trader or I am talking about the news, but also because I didn't want to wait too long.
And he's not joking when he says that, Daniel.
I wish my wife would hear this.
Absolutely. Well,
tell her to tune in.
But anytime we can get you on, every time I read what Daniel Horowitz and the Madison Project are doing, you're always doing something great or writing something great. So anytime you could in, please let us know if you have something going on. But you wrote something, I didn't want to wait too long from the news, about the David Jolly's victory in Florida's 13th special election, 13th Congressional District special election. And you looked like you'd analyzed this quite a bit, and so I didn't want to let this be too old to get into this. So what did you find out looking at the David Jolly's election?
Sure. Obviously, anytime you hear a certain media narrative, a certain meme being promulgated by the establishment forces in the Republican Party, you always know there's more to the story. There's a secondary narrative to any election. And obviously, every election has multiple variables, and we know David Jolly's victory, to a large extent, is chalked up to the unpopularity of Obamacare. And it's hard to prove definitively why he won, even though he was outspent 4-1. But one factor is immigration. And, that is something that obviously the establishment Republicans do not want to talk about. If you listen to their understanding of electoral politics, it's basically that there is a hellfire rush to pass amnesty for Republicans to get involved in that because otherwise we just can't win elections. I guess listening to them, you would come away with the assumption that most Americans are just clamoring for amnesty, saying, give me amnesty or give me death. That is just the most pressing issue. That's basically where they are now. So they are very adamant, and their money backers and lobbyists are ready to put millions into a push this summer into passing amnesty. So getting back to the election in Florida 13, it's important to provide context that this district has actually swung away from us in recent years. obviously the incumbent who passed away earlier this year, triggering an open seat and a special election. So that used to be a Republican district back in the 70s when he represented it. It slowly turned into a swing district, and actually Obama narrowly carried the district in 2012. So this was not a slam dunk. Democrats saw the opportunity and pumped in millions of dollars to this race and outspent David Jolly, who had campaign issues, obviously some acrimony with the Republican committees, and things didn't look like they were going well, but he pulled out a victory. And one of the things he ran strongly on was immigration. The Democrat candidate, Alex Sink, actually got up there and used the typical liberal line that, hey, well, we need them because who else is going to be our, slave workers? She didn't use the word slave, but that's really what she meant. And it's very demeaning that basically that's what we need is just we need immigrants and illegal immigrants for cheap labor. And he ran very strong on border security and against amnesty. He's one of the few candidates that actually took the bull by the horns and ran on the issue instead of either joining the other side or totally avoiding the issue. So it's hard to prove definitively that that was a contributing factor, but here's the deal. If support for strong border security and conversely opposition to amnesty is an electoral loser, well, let me tell you, in a district like this is exactly where we would lose. And in fact, Jolly won.
And this is Florida, of course, where there's a great deal of Hispanic presence, which also translate into sympathy for those even who are not, theoretically, who are not Hispanic themselves. And so I gather you don't think this would be the typical anti-amnesty district. This wouldn't be some place where you'd expect that to be the winning approach if you believe the Republican establishment's mean.
Sure. If you take the electoral map, 50 states, 435 congressional districts, and you kind of rate them from 1 to 100, and understanding that in order for Republicans to win majorities in both houses, they would need to get, let's just say, from 1 to 51, the bare minimum majority. This district is not a 1, a 5, a 10, a very heavy conservative district in Alabama, Idaho, South Carolina, wherever else, you can find a strong red district that, let's say, Romney carried by 30, 40 points. This would be a 53, a 54. Critical in the sense that, it's kind of swing, very winnable, goes back and forth in presidential elections, but we probably don't even need it to get a bare majority. It's a little bit beyond that. So if we could win these districts, we're in very good shape. So that's exactly correct. If this is a district where a strong enforcement first message resonates, that really pokes a lot of holes in the establishment argument. And the other point I would add is that everything in politics is a net. Nothing is 100% beneficial in any direction. Whatever policy you push, there's always going to be people who are dependent upon it on the other side or have some sort of vested interest. But you always got to look on net. And now, obviously, you got to look on what's good public policy. But again, we're moving beyond that for a moment because the Republicans are very much into the politics of this issue. So let's discuss the politics. And it's really, it's jarring when you see that the Hispanic population, obviously they're growing. It's an important voting bloc, but at the end of the day, it's 8% of the electorate, and certainly in a midterm election. Well, you have the other 92% as well, so that's often overlooked. There is the other 92%. Is that a net benefit or a net liability with them? I mean, I think that's clear. And then when you look at the Hispanic vote. So you have to understand, again, that's only 8% of the pie, and of that remaining block in the pie, how many of them would otherwise be committed conservatives or sympathetic to our message, but are turned off exclusively for our stance on this issue? I would imagine there are a few, but not a whole lot of them. Many of them would vote Democrat anyway. They like Obamacare. They'd be liberal on some of the fiscal issues. And then conversely, some of the ones that are committed conservatives would be conservative. Either they'd agree with us on this issue or they'll vote for us irrespective of our stance on this issue. Now add on the other 92%, which who want strong enforcement, and there is no evidence that Republicans need to embrace Obama's agenda on immigration in order to be electorally viable.
Well, I'm Daniel Horowitz of the Madison Project. We could be reaching out to them as well. I think a lot of those people in that 8% are going to be among those harmed by amnesty. And instead of trying to make that case and explain to them that amnesty is going to hurt them first, more than likely, in terms of job opportunities, we're just trying to make these assumptions, these unwarranted assumptions and speculation, and running the country with blindfolds on based on assumptions. So I think that's interesting. Now we're going to have a break here in just a moment, and I'll tell you my Alex Sink story. But the opponent was a very powerful Democratic opponent in my view, and so this while it wasn't a huge electoral landslide, it was a very interesting election. We had David Jolly on last week. He was a great guest. But I think we have to take a break, Rick Trader. Do we?
Yes, indeed. We're up against that break, and you are listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Jonathan Mosley and yours truly, Rick Trader, coming to you live from the CCRS studios. That of WNJC 1360, our flagship station in Philadelphia, where we come to you Monday through Friday from 3 to 5 East Coast time. And, of course, around the world on the Internet via our new Internet broadcast partners, CPRWorldwideMedia.com, PatriotsRide.org, and VigilantLibertyRadio.us. Please don't go away. On the other side, we're going to continue our conversation with Daniel Horowitz, Policy Director for the Madison Project.
Oh, how I'm longing for the day when I'm back at Orchid Bay, where the silver water glistens in the sun.
When is the last time you raced a small boat across wide open water? Tired of snow, traffic jams, cold weather? You need a refreshing change of scenery, a world away. The Bahama Islands have vacation rental homes and apartments. Enjoy spectacular nature in the Abacos Islands. Enjoy refreshing Caribbean beauty, fishing, snorkeling, scuba, the beach. www.enjoyabaco.com. That's ABACO. Enjoyabaco.com.
As I sail across the sea of Abaco, smiling 'cause I know only one more mile to go.
Enjoyabaco.com.
What does it take to be the leader in production systems technology? To be the one company that solves production problems at any plant, for any product, and with any technology? It takes a 30-year record of success. It takes total mastery of complex technologies with a history of delivering success every time, without fail. Only one company can claim that high ground in manufacturing line optimization, data automation, and systems integration, and that's Philadelphia Control Systems. In factories worldwide, Philadelphia Control Systems programs, software, and engineering solutions deliver optimal performance and output flow with a record that can't be matched. Any plant, any product, any technology. Philadelphia Control Systems, the leader in production automation since 1982. 800-335-9811, PCS4automation.com. That's PCS, the number 4, automation.com.
Hi, this is Bob Vide, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night at Concord Bridge in Trenton for freedom. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Viden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle.sportshop.com.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back, fellow patriots. Welcome back once again to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show with Jonathan Mosley and Rick Trader. And a quick program note, if you'd like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show at 10:10 this evening, please log on to patriotsride.org. That's patriotsride.org. At 5 p.m., when we end our live broadcast, switch on over to cprworldwidemedia.org for a rebroadcast of yesterday's show. And if you'd like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show tomorrow afternoon, place for that is vigilantlibertyradio.us. And Daniel Horowitz is joining us now. He's the policy director for the Madison Project. Daniel, thanks for holding through the break. We appreciate your time.
Absolutely. Great to be with you.
Great to have you with us. Daniel, after Jolly's, and we're talking with Daniel about the role of opposing amnesty in David Jolly's election victory in Florida's 13th Congressional District. Daniel, after that election, there was a lot of talk about this election on both sides. The Republicans were claiming it as a victory. Democrats were claiming it as a moral victory, saying that this congressional seat is traditionally a Republican seat. Republicans were saying, but Obama carried it in the past two elections, and a lot of the talk about this election was about Obamacare. However, very little was said about the immigration issue. Two-part question. One, whose victory was this? Was this a Republican victory? Was this a Democrat victory? And why was the Obamacare factor, why did it overshadow the immigration factor so much?
Sure. Again, obviously when you're talking about elections, and especially an isolated special election, it's hard to read too much into it because there's a lot of moving parts and it's kind of a low turnout event. Just first the easier part, the Democrat victory, it certainly is not a Democrat moral victory. The fact the Republicans held it, harkened back to 35 years ago. The demographics really changed, and like you noted, Obama carried the district. So when, obviously they were able to hold it because they had a very powerful and well-respected incumbent, and no one could dislodge the guy. But as soon as it became an open seat, there was a real threat. So just to begin with, Democrats had an opportunity. On top of that, as you noted, they had a candidate that started out with almost 100% name ID in that district. She ran a number of times, locally, statewide. And then number three, they had a boatload of money, at least on the campaign-to-campaign level, outspent Jolly 4-1. And Jolly seriously needed that money because he started out with zero name ID. So the notion that Democrats had a moral victory is ridiculous. They were very disappointed, and I think most of them would admit that. That was a clear opportunity. It wasn't a slam dunk, but if they are to win back the House, that is a must. Going back to our kind of 1 to 150 in the middle scale, this is a district they absolutely need to win a majority. Republicans almost need it, but it's a little bit over the line. They could win a majority without it. So, again, it's kind of somewhere close, but they had a huge opportunity. All the stars aligned, and they failed. So Democrats had no victory. As far as Republicans, it's important to note there was a primary here. And there was a Republican who was pro-amnesty. There was a Republican who said Obamacare shouldn't be fully repealed. And, she had a lot of backing. She was elected, was an elected official in that area, and Jolly crushed her in the primary. In the general election, Jolly, had a lot of problems, and I don't know all the details, but there was a lot of acrimony between the campaign and some of the national Republican committees, the NRCC that runs the House campaigns. They almost bailed on him. So it's hard for them to, take credit for it. What this was clearly a conservative victory. And again, I don't know how Jolly's going to turn out once he's in the House. But he clearly ran on Obamacare and anti-amnesty. And if this would be a district, if the immigration issue, if the conservative stance would hurt us in elections, you definitely see it in this district. And it clearly was the dog that didn't bark.
So again, why was so much talked about how this was a victory over Obamacare and so little about this was a victory over amnesty?
Sure, because, on paper, the establishment would rather accept the notion that this was a victory on Obamacare, even though many of us argue that privately they're resigned to working within the Obamacare structure. That's the official position of the Chamber of Commerce at this point, kind of tweaking it, certain things, but clearly not repealing it wholesale. But most Republicans will, at least publicly say they want it repealed. So they have no problem saying, hey, this is a victory for those who want to repeal Obamacare. What they certainly don't want to talk about is amnesty, because they are fully committed to that. And this election, again, I don't want to exaggerate. I'm not saying it was a major factor in his victory. But if being against amnesty will hurt you, his vocal stance and even running an ad on it would have clearly hurt him in a district like this, and it did not.
Well, John Mosley back again with Daniel Horowitz of the Madison Project. And Alex Sink, people may not realize up here and how powerful a Democratic candidate she was. She was the chief financial officer for the state of Florida from 2006 to 2011. She was a candidate for Florida state governor in 2010. And what I see here is she barely lost by only 49 to 48%. And so this is a formidable candidate on the Democratic side that Jolly had to go up against. I had an interesting experience. I was flying from Washington, D.C., from Dulles to Tampa, where I was going to pick up a car, and saw a consultant on a laptop writing a media plan right there in front of me. Didn't try to hide it, and I wasn't trying to look. But he was obviously flying down to Tampa for the day to be part of the, to pitch them for all the vendors and the media strategy back there in Alex Sink. So he had to do this against a really almost the perfect Democrat candidate in a sense. So it's an interesting test. And I don't know if you have your, I guess we have about 1.5 minutes left, but I don't know if you have your article in front of you, but you have a quote there where from Politico, which admits that he did not run as a moderate, Jolly.
No, and actually to speak to the previous question as well, in terms of the media, Politico is one outlet that noted his stance on immigration, that was part of his campaign. So absolutely, it was very clear he did not run as a moderate. Again, as a PAC, we didn't get involved, and we never met him, and I can't vouch for how he's going to be. But at least in perception, in rhetoric, and perception's reality in this case, he ran as a conservative, and he actually had a primary challenger, in that special election primary, who was clearly moderate. There was a clear, bold contrast, and he won overwhelmingly. And he was a person that came with zero name ID. He had some, at least perceived baggage, being a lobbyist, and that was really thrown at him in the general election. So there were a lot of factors there, and he still came out on top.
Okay, we have to wrap up and go to our break. How can people follow you?
Absolutely. MadisonProject.com. That's where we have all our articles, all the candidates we endorse. Or you could follow me on Twitter at RMConservative.
Got to have you back. Thank you so much, Daniel Horowitz from the Madison Project. Back to you, Rick Trader.
Okay, and we are going to take a little break, and you're listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Jonathan Mosley and Rick Trader, coming to you from the CCRS studios, that of WNJC 1360 AM in Philadelphia, and around the world on the internet via our new internet broadcast partners, CPRWorldwideMedia.com, PatriotsRide.org, and VigilantLibertyRadio.us. Please don't go away. Right on the other side, we're going to be speaking with Jason Jones about the movie to Moment, an effort to influence Hollywood movies in a positive direction. Be right back.
Leader in production systems technology, to be the one company that solves production problems at any plant, for any product, and with any technology. It takes a 30-year record of success. It takes total mastery of complex technologies with a history of delivering success every time, without fail. Only one company can claim that high ground in manufacturing line optimization, data automation, and systems integration, and that's Philadelphia Control Systems. In factories worldwide, Philadelphia Control Systems programs, software, and engineering solutions deliver optimal performance and output flow with a record that can't be matched. Any plant, any product, any technology. Philadelphia Control Systems, the leader in production automation since 1982. 800-335-9811, PCS4automation.com. That's PCS, the number 4, automation.com.
Oh, how I'm longing for the day when I'm back at Orchid Bay, where the silver water glistens in the sun.
When is the last time you raced a small boat across wide open water? Tired of snow, traffic jams, cold weather? You need a refreshing change of scenery, a world away. The Bahama Islands have vacation rental homes and apartments. Enjoy spectacular nature in the Abacos Islands. Enjoy refreshing Caribbean beauty, fishing, snorkeling, scuba, the beach. www.enjoyabaco.com. That's ABACO. Enjoyabaco.com.
As I sail across the sea of Abaco, smiling 'cause I know only one more mile to go.
Enjoyabaco.com.
Hi, this is Bob Viden, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Viden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle.sportshop.com.
Hello, I'm Reverend Carl Kelly, and I head up the Frederick Douglass Foundation of Indiana. President Obama's attacks on the Constitution continues to be aided and abetted by one of his trusted allies in Congress, ultra-liberal Democrat Andre Carson of Indianapolis, nationally known for his infamous racial rants against the Tea Party. I want to tell you about J.D. Manier. J.D. will be a representative for the people of the 7th District. J.D. Manier is a pro-growth Reagan conservative and is co-host of the Conservative Commandos Radio Show. He is asking you to join his army of supporters in order to defeat Carson and go to Washington to demand special prosecutors for Benghazi, the IRS, and other scandals. JD is interested in what's good for the people of the 7th District, not Nancy Pelosi. He will promote strong economic growth and jobs by getting the government off the backs of the people, voting for tax cuts and slashing regulations. Help elect a pro-life defender of freedom who will strongly support Israel, vote to cut wasteful spending, and battle to repeal Obama's socialist agenda. Log on to ManierForCongress.com and donate today. That's MINIEAR for Congress.com. Paid for and authorized by the J.D. Manier for Congress Committee.
I'm J.D. Manier, candidate for the U.S. House of Representatives, Indiana District 7, and I approve of this message.
You can call the Conservative Commandos Radio Show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
And welcome back to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show with Jonathan Mosley and Rick Trader, coming to you from the CCRS studios, that of WNJC 1360 in Philadelphia. And if you'd like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show at 10:10 this evening Eastern Time, please log on to patriotsride.org. That's patriotsride.org. And for rebroadcast of yesterday's show at 5 p.m. Eastern, when we leave you this afternoon, please log on to cprworldwidemedia.com. That's for a rebroadcast of yesterday's show. And if you'd like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show tomorrow afternoon at 3 p.m., log on to vigilantlibertyradio.us. And with that, Jonathan Mosley, we do have our next guest with us, and will you please make the introduction?
All right, like many of our guests, I can only give a short sample of the many qualifications and experiences. Jason Jones served as the director of Hawaii Right to Life, National Youth Director of American Life League, Public Relations Director of Human Life International, and the National Grassroots Director of Sam Brownback for President. Jason Jones has now started to tackle the entertainment industry as it affects our culture. He became a producer, creating the movie Bella. He is also the creator of Bella Hero program, which provides free screenings of the film in crisis pregnancy centers, on college campuses, and in prisons. At least 500 babies have been credited, documented, saved through this movie. Now, Jason Jones' organization, Movie to Movement, seeks to transform America's culture of death with a message of truth, beauty, life, and love. Welcome to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show, Jason Jones.
John and Rick, it's great to be on your show.
It's great. Listen, I love to make sure we see the forest as well as the trees, and you know we get involved in these projects so much. I do want to step back and remember why this is important. How do you see the entertainment industry and Hollywood and the movie affecting our culture? Because I think a lot of people think we've made some progress, so problem solved, and I don't see it that way. What are you seeing?
Yeah, you know, Hollywood is incredibly influential, and it's very similar. You know, my background's in political campaign management and nonprofit PAC management, and the parallels are very similar. You know, David Barton does such a great job of teaching us how the law is the great teacher, and when Roe versus Wade, when the Supreme Court says that abortion is a fundamental right, you see a dramatic shift in public opinion following that court decision, because people look to the law to know right from wrong. They look to the positive law to tell them right from wrong, because sometimes discerning the transcendent moral order is difficult. And then we see how the law corrupts the church. When Roe versus Wade happens, we see whole denominations change their positions on abortion. And the same thing is true in Hollywood. You know, it's subtly and sometimes not so subtly, and I think it's when it's subtle is when it's extremely dangerous. Changes how we perceive and understand moral truth, how we perceive and understand the dignity of the human person. And I'll give you just a powerful example right now is the movie Noah. You know, this movie Noah is a subhumanist fantasy. It's a denial of the dignity of the human person. It's corrupting church leaders. I've seen so many people I respect. They're seduced by Hollywood. They're seduced by the quote-unquote magic of the silver screen.
Wow.
To put down their guard. If the message of Noah was in a book or a pamphlet, they would have railed against it. But because it's a respected director by a powerful movie studio with the most sophisticated technology on the big screen, they just waffle in front of it and are silent, and in fact become advocates for this film, which undermines everything that we're trying to advance.
There's so much there that's deep. I'm tempted to go off on a tangent there. Maybe we'll come back to it. I hope you might write up an analysis on that in terms of...
I did. In fact, it just came out today. It's called The Noah Bomber, where I compare Aronofsky's portrayal of Noah to the Unabomber.
But it's interesting.
It was published. It came out today in the Intercollegiate College Review.
Intercollegiate College Review, and I assume that's the website name.
Yeah. It's a publication of ISI.
Excellent. because it's interesting. You say, the devil said to Jesus, "Bow down, and I will give you all these kingdoms." And you talk about corruption. And you say, bend your message, and I'll give you all this publicity. I'll give you all this, credibility. I can see when you describe it. I could see the compromise in terms of, but we're getting this Hollywood movie if we just warp our message a little bit.
This is what Christian leaders are saying. Even I've heard we need to celebrate it because although overtly it's quite offensive, there's a subliminal message we need to celebrate. Really, a subliminal message we need to celebrate. Okay, I've heard that. Well, it may get people to really. Do we really believe that for every that there's 1 in 1,000 people who see this film that'll crack a Bible and then through their reading of Scripture erase the influence that this film has had in their mind? The director said it's the least biblical film of all time. He's an atheist. He has admitted that the Kabbalah has influenced his script, that he looked to the Kabbalah for influence. Could you imagine, and then Christian leaders fall in line behind this film, could you imagine if a studio, and they made Noah not a lover of man, but a hater of man, instead of trying to, we know that for 120 years, he begged his friends, his family, his neighbors who he loved to change their ways, to love God. But instead, Aronofsky's Noah hides from man. He hates them. He despises them. He wants them destroyed. Could you imagine if Paramount made a movie on Martin Luther King? Instead of making him a civil rights leader, they made him an animal rights activist. Instead of they have a great scene in the middle of the movie where Martin Luther King kicks down the door, tries to kill his wife, his children, and his granddaughters, as they have Noah do in the Noah movie. Could you imagine if then they hired a racist director, and then the director said, this film wasn't made for African Americans, this film was made for white people? Because Aronofsky said his film he didn't make for Christians.
How? Sounds like
could you imagine if civil rights leaders would say, hey, and then Paramount would say to civil rights leaders, if we made a $120 million movie with an African American as the star. If you want us ever to make a movie about African Americans again, you should shut up. That's a direct comparison, but yet Christian leaders say that. Well, we want them to keep making biblical movies, so we should be silent, and we should just be happy that they're telling our story, even if it's drawn more from the Kabbalah and Gnostic Gospels than it is from Scripture. It's just silliness.
Well, Jason Jones, with Movie to Movement, you have an actual action plan here. And actually, I think we're coming up on a break. I hope you can hold through for about 2 minutes. But you're not just complaining, pontificating, saying what should be, but you have an extraordinary structure here. And I think I'm not quite getting my signals here, but I think we'll can we take a break right now, Rick Trader, and come back?
Yeah, we'll take a break, and you're listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Jonathan Mosley and Rick Trader. We're coming to you live from the CCRN studios, that of WNJC 1360 AM in Philadelphia and around the world on the internet via our new internet broadcast partners, CPRWorldwideMedia.com, PatriotsRide.org, and VigilantLibertyRadio.us. Please don't go away. We're speaking with Jason Jones about Movie to Movement.
They say I'm crazy. I really don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but
Oh, how I'm longing for the day when I'm back at Orchid Bay, where the silver water glistens in the sun.
When is the last time you raced a small boat across wide open water? Tired of snow, traffic jams, cold weather? You need a refreshing change of scenery, a world away. The Bahama Islands have vacation rental homes and apartments. Enjoy spectacular nature in the Abacos Islands. Enjoy refreshing Caribbean beauty, fishing, snorkeling, scuba, the beach. www.enjoyabaco.com. That's ABACO. Enjoyabaco.com.
As I sail across the sea of Abaco, smiling 'cause I know
enjoyabaco.com.
Hi, this is Bob Vide, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Viden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle.sportshop.com.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
And welcome back, everybody. Welcome back, fellow patriots. Welcome back once again to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show with Jonathan Mosley and Rick Trader. And our guest this segment is Jason Jones. He's served as director of the Hawaii Right to Life, National Youth Director of American Life League, and Public Relations Director for Human Life International. Jason, thanks for holding through the break. We appreciate your time.
Oh, it's a privilege to be on your show.
Well, Jason, speaking of this show and speaking of movie to movement, we're kind of a little bit as a result of that. In creating the show, one of my motivators of it was the John Adams series that was on HBO several years ago. And I was motivated when John Adams, and that show was directly taken from letters that John Adams wrote to his wife. And I was motivated when in one of these letters he wrote to his wife that we needed leaders that were going to put the country ahead of party and politics. So when you talk about movie to movement, I could say we're a little bit of a result of something like that.
Yeah, by the way, I loved that John Adams special and the HBO special. And what I loved about John Adams and George Mason and some of our founding fathers is that, George Washington and Thomas Jefferson were beautiful human beings, but in so many ways, they accepted what was best in their era. But when their time was wrong, they were also wrong. When their time and place was wrong, they were also wrong. But John Adams was a man who transcended his own time and place, and for example, was a radical abolitionist when so many of the founding fathers, his peers, knew that slavery was an abomination, but lacked the fortitude and the courage to speak out as forcefully as Adams and George Mason did. So I look to men like Adams and Mason as my real heroes of the founding era. Mm-hmm. And that's what Movie to Movement is really trying to do. And, we don't just stand up against films like Noah, we are also producers ourselves. Our most recent film, I produced a short film with Justin Bieber's mother, Patty Millett, called Crescendo. And we have done over 400 theatrical events around the country. And we've raised over $5 million for crisis pregnancy centers to help young, vulnerable women and their preborn children in their most difficult time of need. So we're using art and beauty not only to teach on the dignity of the human person, but then a real way to help provide for the needs of these women and their children. And we'll be putting that up on YouTube in September with the goal of 100 million views in 30 days. So we seek to produce and promote films that promote love, beauty, freedom, and stand up against those that really attack and undermine our understanding of the human person.
Well, Jason, I wanted to talk with you for a moment about the success of the Bible series that was on the History Channel last year, that it broke a lot of records for people watching, the ratings were terrific. So when we get a movie like Bella or a series like John Adams or the Bible or other movies and series that have a good positive message, and they do well at the box office, they do well not just with the critics but with the ratings, what message does this send to Hollywood? A place where it seems like their theory of making a successful movie is violence, sex, gun violence, car violence. What's it say to Hollywood?
Well, Hollywood is like it's a business, right? And so they're looking for a formula, a way to make money through their productions. So they found a formula: sex, violence, big stars, very managed, almost very scientific print and advertising budget. So they're always trying to figure out how to make money through film. And but then they do things again and again which hurt box office. For example, Dr. Ted Baer of Movie Guide has done every year he puts together a study and demonstrates to Hollywood the more sex, the more violence. I'm sorry, not violence, the more sex and the more foul language that you put in a film, the less money you're going to make at the box office. It's devastating to box office. Violence, on the other hand, audiences are smart. There's a time where violence is necessary, and violence for the driving the plot forward. And violence, unlike sex, when you have Jesus being scourged in the Passion of the Christ, that's acting. But when you have a man and a woman doing a love scene where they're naked in a bed, actually physically performing the act, it's not acting. Regardless of what you say, put your spouse in that scene, and then ask yourself if you think that's acting. So that's the difference. So Hollywood, unfortunately, is agenda-driven, and fortunately is agenda-driven. So that can help us.
Well, Jason, you mentioned
Roma.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
I was just going to say, finish my point. Mark and Roma, the Bible series happened because they had an agenda. They wanted to make that movie, and they made it happen. So if the body of Christ was serious about sharing the gospel through film, Mark and Roma, Steve McAvity and Mel Gibson, they've demonstrated that it's there for the taking. We just have to choose to do it. And if we let Hollywood tell our story, you're going to get no of the movie.
Right. I just wanted to say, Jason, that I did see Mel Gibson's The Passion, and the scourging and crucifixion of Jesus Christ in that movie, I thought went way overboard. That was until I went to Turin, Italy, and saw the Shroud of Turin, and was educated about the 127 lash marks across the back of Jesus Christ. And I thought back on the movie The Passion, and then I was educated to know that was not overdone. But before I turn you back over to John Mosley, I just wanted to mention to you that when I told my wife that you were going to be on as a guest today, and she took me to see the movie Bella, she just told me, she says, hey, remember that line? If you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans. Well, she picked that up from the movie Bella.
Oh, and I love that line, and that's my favorite line in the film. And I see that line differently maybe than most. I don't think that God laughs at our plans because he thinks we're foolish. I think the grander our plans, when they're aligned to God's will, God laughs because it's so absurd for us to think we can accomplish such things. But God laughs because he knows he's going to give us the grace to do it. And I do believe, and I've seen that in my own work, the Movie to Movement, that we have some very ambitious plans, and it's ridiculous that we think we could accomplish them, but then time after time, God shows up with the grace to make those plans a reality. And so that's what I take from that line.
Well, this is John Mosley on the Conservative Commanders Radio Show with our guest, Jason Jones. And, of course, we could do a whole segment on the balance between our diligent participation in God's grace as well. But I wanted to make sure we kind of buried the lead here, because I do want people to remember why this is important. But and so I want to start with why we have to do something. But you have put together a tremendous structure, it seems to me, of getting people to respond in a way that every person listening to this show now or in the replays can participate and really make a difference. Because that, I think, is what bugs a lot of people, what creates a lot of apathy. Say, yeah, I know it's bad, but what can I do? You've come up with this tremendous structure with theater captains and everything like that.
Well, yeah, thank you for bringing it back to that, because that really is the brass tacks. So many people, especially if you're listening and you live in a smaller community, you're like, how come I didn't get October Baby? How come we didn't get Son of God? And films like that often don't get a broad distribution. So what we've done is we put together a network of leaders. And by leaders, I mean homeschool moms, youth pastors, radio station owners, just leaders in their community who are committed to making sure that films that share the gospel of Jesus Christ and the gospel of life come to their community. So you sign up at our website, movietomovement.com. You become a theater captain. And then what you do is we'll work with you, and then we work with the studios to make sure those films come to your town. And then we work with you to make sure that people in your town know they're there. And what's been really great about Movie to Movement is there are about 20 cities that have traditionally been the cities that get faith-based films in the theater. So unless you lived in Atlanta, Dallas, Houston, Chicago, St. Louis, you're not going to see these films. But now we have 3,000 theater captains all across the country, and working together with them, we'll make sure that October Baby is in your town. We'll make sure that the Son of God or God is Not Dead is in your town. And that's the way we really do it. On opening week, we make sure that when a film like God is Not Dead is in theaters, people are going to see that. Not the big blockbuster that spent $300 million to convince you to go see their garbage, but a great film like God is Not Dead. Or to let you know, and I'd love to let your audience know, that the Jesus film, the most watched film in the history of the world, the film that shared the gospel of Jesus Christ to every continent, is now available at Walmart as of yesterday. So it's in every Walmart in America, the Jesus film. And so what a wonderful way for us to share the gospel with our family and friends, and now it's at Walmart. So, and we can really make a difference. That's one thing I learned. I tripped into the film industry with Bella, tripped over backwards when I met these young filmmakers who wanted to make this film. And so what I've learned is that all of us working together can really change culture through film. And in Hollywood, we're knitting together a great team. So it's really exciting to see how God is knitting together the body of Christ in Hollywood and across small towns across America to make sure these films are successful.
And, of course, the point of that is that when they see the sales, even in Walmart or in the theater, that hopefully will change the movies that get made in Hollywood and get distributed when they see the sales figures.
That's exactly right. So, for example, like my obsession is when a film like God is Not Dead is in theaters, that opening week it has a big number, because what that will guarantee is that it'll go from, for example, opening week it opened in limited release and it was the number 5 movie in America. So what that guarantees, it's going to go to hundreds and hundreds of other theaters. And if week 2 it can stay in the top 10, it'll add more and more. And before you know it, we're in 3,000 theaters, changing culture. We worked on a film called 2016 Obama's America. We started in one theater, and we were in one theater for 3 weeks. But we were the number 1 theater in America. And by the time all things that were done, we were in thousands of movie theaters in every town across America.
Wow. And, of course, that's how, for example, Passion of the Christ became so big, is because of the response. I remember that and other movies, churches buying up entire theaters. Unfortunately, we're out of time. You've given out the website several times, movietomovement.com. They're pulling the plug. Rick Trader, back to you. Thank you, Jason Jones.
God bless you guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. And we're going to take a break right now, and you're listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Jonathan Mosley and Rick Trader, and we're coming to you live from the CCRS studios, that of WNJC 1360, our flagship station in Philadelphia, and around the world on the internet via our internet broadcast partners, CPRWorldwideMedia.com, PatriotsRide.org, and VigilantLibertyRadio.us. Please don't go away. On the other side, John and I are going to be speaking with Pastor John Willie. So we'll be right back.
I really don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but
What does it take to be the leader in production systems technology? To be the one company that solves production problems at any plant, for any product, and with any technology? It takes a 30-year record of success. It takes total mastery of complex technologies with a history of delivering success every time, without fail. Only one company can ground in manufacturing line optimization, data automation, and systems integration, and that's Philadelphia Control Systems. In factories worldwide, Philadelphia Control Systems programs, software, and engineering solutions deliver optimal performance and output flow with a record that can't be matched. Any plant, any product, any technology. Philadelphia Control Systems, the leader in production automation since 1982. 800-335-9811, PCS4automation.com. That's PCS, the number 4, automation.com.
Oh, how I'm longing for the day when I'm back at Orchid Bay, where the silver water glistens in the sun.
When is the last time you raced a small boat across wide open water? Tired of snow, traffic jams, cold weather? You need a refreshing change of scenery, a world away. The Bahama Islands have vacation rental homes and apartments. Enjoy spectacular nature in the Abacos Islands. Enjoy refreshing Caribbean beauty, fishing, snorkeling, scuba, the beach. www.enjoyabaco.com. That's ABACO. Enjoyabaco.com.
As I sail across the sea of Abaco, smiling 'cause I know only one more mile to go.
Enjoyabaco.com.
Hi, this is Bob Vide, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today, the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Viden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittlesportshop.com.
Hello, I'm Reverend Carl Kelly, and I head up the Frederick Douglass Foundation of Indiana. President Obama's attacks on the Constitution continues to be aided and abetted by one of his trusted allies in Congress, ultra-liberal Democrat Andre Caution of Indianapolis, nationally known for his infamous racial rants against the Tea Party. I want to tell you about J.D. Manier. J.D. will be a representative for the people of the 7th District. J.D. Manier is a pro-growth Reagan conservative and is co-host of the Conservative Commandos Radio Show. He is asking you to join his army of supporters in order to defeat Carson and go to Washington to demand special prosecutors for Benghazi, the IRS, and other scandals. J.D. is interested in what's good for the people of the 7th District, not Nancy Pelosi. He will promote strong economic growth and jobs by getting the government off the backs of the people, voting for tax cuts and slashing regulations. Help elect a pro-life defender of freedom who will strongly support Israel, vote to cut wasteful spending, and battle to repeal Obama's socialist agenda. Log on to ManierForCongress.com and donate today. That's MINIER JDMuneerforCongress.com. Paid for and authorized by the J.D. Muneer for Congress Committee.
I'm J.D. Muneer, candidate for the U.S. House of Representatives, Indiana District 7, and I approve of this message.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
Welcome back, everybody, and welcome back, fellow patriots. Welcome back once again to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show with Jonathan Mosley and Rick Trader. Program note, if you'd like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show at 10:10 this evening, log on to patriotsride.org. That's patriotsride.org. At 5 p.m. East Coast time when we end our live broadcast. If you'd like to hear a rebroadcast of yesterday's show at 5 p.m., switch on over to CPRWorldwideMedia.com, CPRWorldwideMedia.com. Could also hear a rebroadcast of today's show tomorrow afternoon at VigilantLibertyRadio.us. And Jonathan Mosley, we have our next guest. Please take it away. Jonathan Mosley.
Yes, I can hear you. Are you there?
Yeah, we have our next guest. Will you please make the introduction?
Okay, the NSA was flipping a switch there, I think. Pastor John Wiley is an ordained Foursquare pastor and is the current divisional superintendent for the Kansas City Metro Foursquare Division. In 1989, he accepted Christ while in a military prison at the age of 19. In 2001, he and his family started River of Church Family with 15 teenagers. He now serves there as senior pastor with over 350 people. But also, John Wiley is also the founder of River of Refuge, a nonprofit Kansas City-based organization committed to help transition homeless families who have jobs from high-rent motels and shelters into permanent housing. And as I understand it, he's also leading some projects on how we can revitalize our local economies with some conservative and down-home approaches. Welcome to the Conservative Commander Radio Show, John Wiley.
Hey, thank you. Thanks for having me today.
All right, thank you. Like I say, we do believe in handling things as much as we can the way they used to be in our local communities without waiting for some of those fancy G-men to come from Washington, and we do have to actually do things. I understand you're working on some things sort of buy American and buy local. Is that right?
Yeah, for sure. I came across this, the River of Refuge, which I bought a former hospital, been closed for 10 years. It's a $16 million building that went into being abandoned for that 10-year period. And the reason I bought the hospital was because I had observed families living for 5 or 6 years in these pay-by-the-week motels. These were families with jobs who go to work every day. And they were living with their children, 4 or 5 kids in a one-room motel, no bigger than a standard, rent-by-the-week motel room. And I have this belief in my life that if you can see a need and connect the dot, what you don't want to say is somebody ought to do something about that. And typically, when people say that, somebody ought to, they're thinking of the government, or they're thinking of the city, or the state, or the federal government. And when I saw this need of these folks who go to work every day, I realized I could do something to fix that problem. That was 6 years before I bought the hospital. And so 6 years later, after helping a lot of families, we ended up buying this former hospital to put these families into this program that gets them out of permanent poverty. We do all of this with no government grants and no assistance at all from the government. It comes from private donors.
Well, that's tremendous. And, a lot of criticism is that the church really doesn't do anything, and maybe there are churches who don't. But the idea is that we need government, and I'm not saying necessarily you're taking the position of not having the government help, but we need to do more ourselves. So you got involved in some of those areas, and I think that's a conservative, traditional family approach and Christian approach to really solving some of the problems that we're dealing with. Describe a little bit more. You're saying the government puts them in, or how do they get into those hotels, that situation, just to bring that to life a little bit?
Yeah, you bet. Well, there's a number of different ways that people end up in those situations. I know back in 2008, 2009, we had a big economic, downturn in the country, and we were already helping families stuck in these motels prior to that. But right after the economic downturn, we started finding what would be considered white-collar families, former Sprint employees who just couldn't get a replacement job, who had lost their homes living in these pay-by-the-week motels. That's one segment of displaced people. And others are just people who are just in this endless poverty. They've grown up in a generation of poverty. They're unable to save first month's, last month's security deposit to get into a what we would consider normal housing. So they end up in these pay-by-the-week motels for years on end.
Well, first of all, a lot of policy making in Washington government, state, seems to look at it as all one category. You're kind of touching on the fact that these are very different categories.
Yes. Yeah, they are. They're very different. But it's interesting because they all end up living in the same community together. These little motels. Well, by the way, these pay-by-the-week motels. This is a national issue. This isn't just a Kansas City issue here where I live. You will find these pay-by-the-week motels nationwide, and in these motels, you will find families from every conceivable background of life living stuck and unable to get out. And the reason I say stuck is they'll pay the market rate for apartments here in Kansas City. A 3-bedroom apartment here is probably going to be, the area of town where I live, probably going to be about $950. Well, they're paying that much for a one-room motel, $950, where their kitchen sink is their bathroom sink. And you think, well, why don't they just get out? Why don't they get an apartment like everybody else? What's wrong with these people? The challenge is, once they go into these motels, thinking it'll be 2 or 3 weeks, what happens is they can't pay the rent, save the deposit first month, last month. What will end up happening is they'll claw their way into a savings, maybe $600-800, and then a child will get sick or the car will break down. So what ends up being maybe 2 or 3 weeks, what they thought, ends up being 3 or 4 years, and they can't catch a break. And so what we do is we swoop in and help them as long as they're employed, get them out of that environment so they can save their money, and we get them. These folks are one missed paycheck away from sleeping in their cars or ending up in our shelters. Because if you can't pay the pay-by-the-week motel rent this week, you are evicted this week.
So the way we're handling those in need is not necessarily getting a pathway for them to get up. We have the image of a hand up, giving people a hand up, and it doesn't sound like what's happening right now is doing that. Is giving people a pathway.
Yeah, they're stuck. The way our program works is once they come into our program, you can only come into the River of Refuge project if you have a job, sustainable income, and you're willing to open a savings account, which we have the ability to go online and verify weekly deposits. And so they enter into a contract with us. So as long as you keep your job and make your weekly deposits to yourself, it's your money. As long as you do that, you'll stay with us, live and eat for free. And when you graduate, you're graduating with first month's, last month's, 2 months of savings in the bank, and all of your old utility bills, things that would keep you from getting utilities, past utilities, that sometimes these families will have an electric bill that's left over from 4 years ago. Get all that paid. So now when they graduate, we've given them a path out where when they leave, they're leaving with their own money they saved. And that's how our program works.
That's tremendous. Well, you must have difficulty, or a challenge, I should say, being able to finance that of your own.
Well, yeah, it was a faith walk, that's for sure. When I went and offered, let me go back to the very beginning. The very first day I became aware of this issue is because I was driving down the highway in the city where I live and saw the school bus stop, flashing its lights, as you would expect in a neighborhood. Well, except I wasn't in a neighborhood, I was on a highway. And I thought, man, the bus is stopping here, must be broken down. So I came to a stop behind the bus, and to my shock, I watched elementary-age kids get on the bus in front of this, very low-end, pay-by-the-week motel. That changed my life because I thought to myself, well, wait a minute, if they're getting on the bus here, they get off here, these kids surely cannot live here in this place. That was 6 years ago. We spent 3 years rescuing these families one at a time, did it all with money that was just raised here locally from the church that I pastor, and my church is a very small church, but as 3 years went by, we were spending thousands of dollars a month advocating for these families to get them into apartments, kind of one at a time. But at the end of the 3 years, the amount of money that we were pouring out of our congregation into it was putting. I came to the point where I realized it was untenable. It couldn't continue. But I became as trapped in the motels as they were. In other words, love and compassion in my heart for these families wouldn't let me walk away, to the tune of thousands of dollars a month. And I realized I wasn't really solving the problem long term. But the day I drove by the hospital and saw it and said, somebody ought to buy that hospital for my families, no sooner did those words roll off my lips, somebody ought to buy the hospital, but I realized that was me. So with no money in pocket, I went and found the owners of the motel and offered them $1 million for the motel, but told them the truth. For the hospital, not the motel, for the hospital. Told them the truth. I don't have $1 million to buy your hospital, but if you sell it to me for $1 million, because it's the right thing to do, $1 million will follow behind me, because I know that money follows vision and compassion. They took a big risk, shook my hand, and said, yes, that was 3 years ago, and the money has rolled in, all from private donors in area churches throughout the Kansas City metro area.
All right, well, we got to take a break right now, so let's break there, and if you can hold on for about 2 minutes.
All right, we are going to take a little break, and you are listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Jonathan Mosley and Rick Trader, coming to you from the CCRS studios, that of WNJC 1360, our flagship station in Philadelphia, and around the world on the internet with our new internet broadcast partners, CPRWorldwideMedia.com, PatriotsRide.org, and VigilantLibertyRadio.us. And this segment, we're speaking with Pastor John Wiley about Buy American, Buy Local, and also take care of others who aren't as fortunate. Be right back.
They say I'm lefty, but oh, how I'm longing for the day when I'm back at Orchid Bay, where the silver water glistens in the sun.
When is the last time you raced a small boat across wide open water? Tired of snow, traffic jams, cold weather? You need a refreshing change of scenery, a world away. The Bahama Islands have vacation rental homes and apartments. Enjoy spectacular nature in the Abacos Islands. Enjoy refreshing Caribbean beauty, fishing, snorkeling, scuba, the beach. www.enjoyabaco.com. That's ABACO. Enjoyabaco.com.
As I sail across the sea of Abaco, smiling 'cause I know only one more mile to go.
Enjoyabaco.com.
Hi, this is Bob Vide, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Viden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle.sportshop.com.
You can
The Conservative Commandos Radio Show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show with your host, Rick Trader. I'm John Mosley, your co-host for today. And our guest in this segment is Pastor John Riley. And I'd like to hear more about real-world solutions to problems that everybody is concerned about, but aren't necessarily getting solved. So you were talking about how you were able to manage to do this. It's a very ambitious project. We had a little bit of mention an earlier guest about the difference between taking action and trusting in the grace of God, and how that's a tricky thing. So you pulled off quite an operation here for a small church. Just tell us about that, other than just it's a miracle.
Yeah, well, when you step out to do the right thing, and that is show compassion and mercy for people who maybe don't come from a life experience like you, may not necessarily even vote like you vote or believe what you believe, but if you'll have mercy and compassion on people, provision follows behind it. And so, we don't sit here judging the poor. If I see somebody living a couple miles away from where I go to church and where I live, I'm going to do everything I can to assist them if they're willing to assist themselves. So when we've lived like this, helping these folks, all the money we've needed has followed behind. We've never lacked for anything that we've undertaken, even a project this big.
Well, I haven't always experienced that, but I certainly believe in it, and I think that's great, because I think a lot of people, as you were saying earlier, another guest, are sitting here listening, saying things are wrong, but what can I do? I really believe there's an awful lot of people out there who are at the "what can I do" stage, and I think that's I think a really important message as far as that goes, and so I forgot what I was going to say about that, but anyway, you have to believe that it's going to be there when you in the provision. So what else do you do to help these people get to the next step, get on a pathway, so they're not just trapped in a cycle?
Once they come into the program and they've successfully saved their money and ready to go out, the next step for us is getting them sponsored with area landlords. See, these folks that we meet that are living in these motels, they already buy local. They're shopping in our grocery stores. Their children are enrolled in our school districts. They're part of our community. Sometimes I refer to them as the hidden homeless. They're homeless, and they're hidden right under our noses in plain sight. Listeners right now across the United States can go find these families just a couple of miles from where they live, go advocate for them, and get them sponsored out of these motels. Well, what we do is once we get them financially healed up, we'll go advocate with an area landlord and say, hey, look, we know this family's got a sketchy background, financially speaking, but they've done the deal. They've worked the program. They're worth taking a risk. And so then we sponsor them into normal housing like everybody else and get these kids stabilized and away from the stigma and the embarrassment of going to school, and all the other kids know that they're either sleeping in their car or living in a motel. I think one of the most shocking things for me was when we were trying to get these families sponsored out of these motels. We'd go to the motel and ask for, let's just say, the Smith family, and we'd find out the Smith family wasn't there anymore. They were sleeping in their car because they had run out of money and they weren't getting paid till Friday. But the parents wanted the kids to stay in the school district, so they'd sleep in their car in the motel and let the kids jump out of the car to get on the bus to go to school that morning. That's how committed these families are to staying local in the communities and the school districts where they reside.
Pastor Wiley, this is Rick Trader here. A question for you, just playing devil's advocate for a minute. How would you answer someone that asked the question, how do you separate people who just need a temporary helping hand, a temporary uplift, versus those people that are just living off the system? and have no intentions of pulling themselves up by the bootstraps, but waiting for others to provide all their wants and needs into perpetuity?
Good question. And so we grid for that pretty hard. And so we've gotten really good at asking questions. So we look for three things, and we're really good at looking for them, and we know when we've got it. What we're looking for in the lives of the people, we're looking for drive, internal drive, some measure of discipline in them, and some desire to change. So drive, discipline, and desire. When we can see a spark of those three things in somebody that we're vetting, we're in. Even if they make a mistake along the way, internally we've found that they have those three components, we'll walk with them. But if we don't see discipline, we don't see drive, and we don't see desire, then our program is not for you. We work with families that have those three components, and so we have a very high rate of success.
That's great. This is John Mosley back again. And I was hearing concern on a radio station here locally in the morning about the fact that there are a lot of jobs available that pay less than welfare, and that was an issue that they were worried about, that people just won't go to get the jobs if they're in that hammock. But I also seen a lot, and we only have maybe about 2 minutes left, but have you seen the trap, the credit rating trap, where a lot of jobs will be closed to people because they have a bad credit rating? I'm seeing that in more and more situations.
Yeah, absolutely. The higher paying jobs, they're vetting on credit rating and past financial, health, and it makes it difficult to break that cycle. I don't have a solution for that. I recognize that it's out there, and the families we work with typically are having to work 2 or 3 jobs in order to stay afloat.
Well, I think that's a policy issue that really needs to be dealt with. I've got a client right now who's suing in Virginia about that. Well, anyway, so that's an interesting pathway. Again, I believe there's a lot of people who are wondering, at least I hope they're out there saying, what can I do? And everybody's different. Everyone may feel called to different things than I do, but I would like to see people take your example and get involved. So where can people follow up, and can they find out more about what you're doing?
Yep, if they want to learn more about River of Refuge and the program and how we operate, they can go to riverofrefuge.com, riverofrefuge.com. If they want to learn more about me and my own personal story and how I came to faith and how I came to have the compassion that I do, they can learn more at pastorjohnwiley.com.
And perhaps they might want to have their pastor learn from you and maybe replicate some of what you're doing around the country.
Yep. It's not that hard. It's easy to do. You just got to take some risks.
There you go. That's great. Well, thank you so much for being on the Conservative Commandos radio show with us, Pastor John Wiley. Back to you, Rick Trader.
Well, John and Pastor, if you're still there, I really do believe that programs like yours are run a whole lot more efficient than any government-run program. Pastor, you have a comment on that in 15 seconds?
I would agree with you wholeheartedly. We have a much higher rate of success. The government programs typically run at about a 3% or less rate of success in graduates. We are far and above that. I would agree with you completely.
Pastor, got to run, but I want to thank you for joining us on the Conservative Commandos radio show. God bless and good luck to you.
God bless you. Thanks.
All right, we are going to take a break. You're listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Jonathan Mosley and Rick Trader. We're coming to you from the CCRS studios, that of WNJC 1360, and around the world on the internet. And on the other side, we're going to be speaking with Dana Allen. Dana was the co-founder and chairman of Newsmax.com. So don't go away. We will be right back.
What does it take to be the leader in production systems technology? To be the one company that solves production problems at any plant, for any product, and with any technology? It takes a 30-year record of success. It takes total mastery of complex technologies with a history of delivering success every time, without fail. Only one company can claim that high ground in manufacturing line optimization, data automation, and systems integration, and that's Philadelphia Control Systems. In factories worldwide, Philadelphia Control Systems programs, software, and engineering solutions deliver optimal performance and output flow with a record that can't be matched. Any plant, any product, any technology. Philadelphia Control Systems, the leader in production automation since 1982. 800-335-9811, PCS4automation.com. That's PCS, the number 4, automation.com.
Oh, how I'm longing for the day when I'm back at Orchid Bay, where the silver water glistens in the sun.
When is the last time you raced a small boat across wide open water? Tired of snow, traffic jams, cold weather? You need a refreshing change of scenery, a world away. The Bahama Islands have vacation rental homes and apartments. Enjoy spectacular nature in the Abacos Islands. Enjoy refreshing Caribbean beauty, fishing, snorkeling, scuba, the beach. www.enjoyabaco.com. That's ABACO. Enjoyabaco.com.
As I sail across the sea of Abaco, smiling 'cause I know only one more mile to go.
Enjoyabaco.com.
Hi, this is Bob Viden, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today, the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Viden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle.sportshop.com.
Hello, I'm Reverend Carl Kelly, and I head up the Frederick Douglass Foundation of Indiana. President Obama's attacks on the Constitution continues to be aided and abetted by one of his trusted allies in Congress, ultra-liberal Democrat Andre Carson of Indianapolis, nationally known for his infamous racial rants against the Tea Party. I want to tell you about J.D. Manier. J.D. will be a representative for the people of the 7th District. J.D. Manier is a pro-growth Reagan conservative and is co-host of the Conservative Commandos Radio Show. He is asking you to join his army of supporters in order to defeat Carson and go to Washington to demand special prosecutors for Benghazi, the IRS, and other scandals. J.D. is interested in what's good for the people of the 7th District, not Nancy Pelosi. He will promote strong economic growth and jobs by getting the government off the backs of the people, voting for tax cuts and slashing regulations. Help elect a pro-life defender of freedom who will strongly support Israel, vote to cut wasteful spending, and battle to repeal Obama's socialist agenda. Log on to ManierForCongress.com and donate today. That's MINIEAR for Congress.com. Paid for and authorized by the J.D. Manier for Congress Committee.
I'm J.D. Manier, candidate for the U.S. House of Representatives, Indiana District 7, and I approve of this message.
You can call the Conservative Commandos Radio Show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
Yes, this is the Conservative Commandos Radio Show with Jonathan Mosley and yours truly, Rick Trader. And a program note, if you would like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show at 10:10 this evening, East Coast time, log on to patriotsride.org. That's patriotsride.org. At 5 p.m., when we end our live broadcast, you can hear a rebroadcast of yesterday's show by logging on to cprworldwidemedia.com. And if you'd like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show tomorrow afternoon, place for that is vigilantlibertyradio.us. And with that, Jonathan Mosley, we do have our next guest with us. Will you make the introduction?
Yes, Dana Allen is a leader of a new television network being founded this month, American Uncensored News Network. Dana Allen was the co-founder and chairman of Newsmax.com from 1998 to 2000. He was president of American Investigator Television from 2000 to 2001. Dana Allen was also co-founder, president, and inventor of an invention marketing firm, Sequoian Technologies, from 2006 until his recent new project. He was director and executive vice president of TMS Sequoia, a publicly traded company, from 1996 to 1997, chairman in 1998, and chairman, CEO, and president in 1999. And like most of our guests, I have to drastically cut this back, all the many accomplishments and activities, in order to make sure we get the chance to hear from him. So while doing injustice to all of his bio, welcome to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show, Dana Allen.
Hello, John. Thank you. And it was great meeting you at CPAC.
Absolutely. It was great. We had Jeff Metcalf on here a while ago and had a great interview, and then got to know you at CPAC. Again, we talked about CPAC, about how many things happen out in the hallways. Much more happens in the corridors than sometimes in the auditorium, and great connections get taking place there. But I want to, I'm often torn between setting the, viewing the whole forest instead of the trees, setting the whole stage, as opposed to burying the lead of the current events. But I do want to step back. I know you're very involved and very busy in a lot of details right now of the work you're doing in setting up a new television network. But I also think we need to remember, why are we doing this, and why is this important to step back? And I'll point out that, or start out with the idea that I don't understand how people can not know all the things going on with government and politics when, for example, I don't know all the things they know about sports, movie, music, all these things, and we're using the exact same channels of communication. I feel stupid about all the things that they know about popular culture, but they are clueless when it comes to government, politics, the fate of the nation, and they're using the same magazines, television, radio, either way. And you have some philosophy, I think, about reaching out to people who we're not reaching with the message and that we need to be reaching them with.
Yeah, that's right, John. And, if you ask yourself, what's the most powerful thing in a country, what really, drives a country or whatever, actually, I think American people are onto this to a degree. There was a survey done, and 42% of them didn't say it was the U.S. government. They said it was the media. And 22% said it was the U.S. government. So, and that's really true. I remember the first time I met Paul Weyrich, who founded the Heritage Foundation, the Free Congress Foundation, and I said to him, the bloodiest battle in Romania during the revolution was not fought over an army base; it was fought over the television station. And he says, that's right. And he says, and the bloodiest battle fought in the Panama War was fought over a television station. And I said, and the most bloody battle fought in the Philippine Revolution was over a television station. And that's really what drives the country. Fortunately, we have talk radio and the internet, so people can access the truth through those things. They can get uncensored news through those two sources, but on television there isn't a completely uncensored news source, and I think once we have that, that will really turn things around for the country.
Yes, when the Soviet Union was falling, when it was falling apart, the Baltic nations, one of them, Latvia, I spent time with, they had the same experience. The People's Revolution surrounded and took control of the television tower, which is quite an impressive building, not just metal. And the Russian or Soviet troops came in by helicopter over their heads and seized back control of the television station there for a while. They understand the importance of that. But you've seen the stuff. I know we mentioned the interviews with people, the former Obama voters who say, well, they're against Congress, but they don't know who controls Congress. There was the Democrats at the time. All the ignorance that's out there. How do you see? Well, first, how do you see that we can reach people who basically don't care about the speeches we want to give them?
Yeah, that's a good point, John. I think part of it is to get the point across to them, which shouldn't be too hard, of how important it is as to what type of government they have. You know, there's a lot of people have been murdered, but almost all of them have been murdered by governments like Stalin and Hitler and Pol Pot and so forth, not by other individuals. And not only that, the quality of life. When you have a society where the government owns the economy, basically everyone is slaves, and so they basically live very poor lives and they have very few rights. Whereas on the other hand, if the government doesn't own the economy, if you have a free economy, people generally are safe and prosperous. So I think even if maybe they're not naturally patriotic, we can point out to them it's in their own best self-interest to have good government.
Well, you were one of the founders of Newsmax, and the world has changed a great deal with our ability to reach the society with news. You know, but I'm concerned that we haven't come as far as we think we have. What do you think about the landscape about media influence as it stands right now?
On radio, it's very positive. And so I was born in San Francisco, and in San Francisco, there isn't anything that, you know, you could label as liberal talk radio. I think Rush is number one and Mike Savage is number two in San Francisco, last time I checked. So I think radio is a very positive media experience, you know, for the country. It's good. I think the internet's pretty good, but with the internet, you have to pull people in. They have to come to your site, and so really, where we're at great disadvantage is that whatever you want to call them, the liberals, the socialists, the Marxists, the anti-Americans, they still really have control of most of the media people see, which is on television and movies, that is sort of pushed to them. And so we have to, and that's, I'm not trying to take political sides, you know, parties or whatever, but those that believe in America need to get get on equal footing at least in the push media. And the best one of that is what all those, I didn't even know about the Latvia one you talked about, John, but it's television, especially broadcast television. People have maybe 25 choices, and they're going to flip and see every dial. So, we have 3 TV stations up. We're going to have 6 up pretty soon, and probably 10 within 4 or 5 months. And it'll cover most of Northern California with those 10 stations. And already just with the 6, we have 9 million people within the viewing area.
Well, that's interesting. Now, you say about 9 million people. What percentage of those do you think have or don't have cable?
We actually know that. This is a little bit of a secret, but about the fastest growing media market there is out there is broadcast television. In 2010, it was 14.3% were on free television, broadcast television, antenna television, and in 2013 it was 19%, so it's probably 20%. What's happening is a lot of people's cable bills are $75, $100. They're just turning it off, and they're going to broadcast TV and to internet television, and so actually it's a growing market. So it's basically 20% of 9 million, which would be 1.7 million people. But an important factor on that is they have far few choices. They don't have 300 channels. They have maybe 25 channels. And so I know someone owns a TV station in Reno, Nevada, and he says he actually gets a higher ad response off his broadcast than he does off of cable. He has, channel 14 on both, and he says he gets better ad response off of the broadcast.
All right, we have to take a break if you can hold for about 2 minutes.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
All right, we are going to take a break now. You're listening to the Commandos Radio Show with Jonathan Mosley and Rick Trader. We're coming to you live from the CCRS studios. that of WNJC 1360, our flagship station in Philadelphia and around the world on the internet via our new internet broadcast partners, CPRWorldwideMedia.com, PatriotsRide.org, and VigilantLibertyRadio.us. Please don't go away. We're going to continue our interview with Dana Allen, and he was the co-founder and chairman of Newsmax, and his new project is American Investigator Television. Well, that's the old project. We'll talk about his new in a minute.
Oh, how I'm longing for the day when I'm back at Orchid Bay, where the silver water glistens in the sun.
When is the last time you raced a small boat across wide open water? Tired of snow, traffic jams, cold weather? You need a refreshing change of scenery, a world away. The Bahama Islands have vacation rental homes and apartments. Enjoy spectacular nature in the Abacos Islands. Enjoy refreshing Caribbean beauty, fishing, snorkeling, scuba, the beach. www.enjoyabaco.com. That's A-B-A-C-O. EnjoyAbaco.com.
As I sail across the sea of Abaco, smiling 'cause I know only one more mile to go.
EnjoyAbaco.com.
Hi, this is Bob Viden, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glassboro, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Viden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glassboro, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle.sportshop.com.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
And welcome back to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show with Jonathan Mosley and Rick Trader coming to you from the CCRS studios, that of WNJC 1360 in Philadelphia and around the world on the internet via CPRWorldwideMedia.com, PatriotsRide.org, and VigilantLibertyRadio.us. And our guest this segment is Dana Allen. He is the leader of a new television network being founded this month, American Uncensored News Network. Dana, thanks for holding on through the break. We appreciate your time.
Thank you, Rick.
Dana, what kind of programming are you scheduling for your new network?
Yeah, actually the name describes it. It's Uncensored News, which is making a claim that basically the alternatives are not uncensored, that they're censored, which is the case. On television, there isn't a truly uncensored news source out there. Fox is much better than the others, but they're still afraid of certain stories, like when Joe Arpaio did a news conference saying that Barack Obama's birth certificate was a poor amateur forgery. That really was only covered on radio and the internet. So we will focus on those stories that are being censored, and we'll also, our general format is we'll have like a 7 o'clock news hour, but we will have a lot of shows where we have live talk television. And on that, we will show documentaries, for the ones that people have trouble getting shown, things like about TW800 or whatever. And then afterwards, we'll have the callers come in, and we're actually planning on allowing them to come in with Skype, so their video will be up on the screen and discuss the news.
Dana, if I could ask you for a little bit of advice and a little bit of insight. We've been doing the Conservative Commandos radio show We're going on to our 4th year now. And we're broadcasting in Philadelphia, which, as you probably know, is a very liberal area. And I see our show as a boutique show it is the Conservative Commandos radio show. We do bring on conservative guests, and generally we're talking to a conservative audience. Do you see this as a mistake? Do you see ways that we could reach out to people on the other side? Should we continue to do what we're doing?
Yes, I think you can reach out to a broader audience. I'm a big fan of talk radio. You know, where would this country be without it? I mean, seriously, it has had a very positive effect. But I think the way is with controversy and the issue of uncensored news that you can get a broader appeal. Actually, someone that does a good job on that, he's pretty loud, but it's Alex Jones. And I know liberal Democrats that they listen to one of his documentaries and they really pay attention. And actually has a relative that's on the liberal side, and she watched one of his programs. So, what he does is he goes after the uncensored stories, and I actually has a special knack for that. But I think that you can do the same thing because in Philadelphia you have something that I refer to as a Democratic death spiral, and I'll use.
Well, that's true in just about every major city in the country, isn't it?
That's right. In fact, I'll use Ohio as an example. The murder rate in Ohio is slightly less than average. You know, positive. The murder rate in Cleveland is 3 times worse. Cleveland votes about 70% Democrat. There are precincts in Cleveland that vote 95% plus Democrat. In those districts, the murder rate is 9 times higher than the murder rate for Ohio. And so the people that are being hurt by this the most, they're literally being murdered, are the people that vote, for the liberals or Democrats or whatever you want to call them. And it's like John F. Kennedy Jr., when he had that plane crash and he died, he got in what's called a death spiral where he couldn't see the horizon, thought he was diving, so he kept pulling back on the stick. But he was in a corkscrew. He's going around in a circle, and the harder he pulled back on the stick, the faster he went down until he, died and his family died. And that's exactly what happens. There's this huge conflict of interest, and in these neighborhoods, and I'm broadcasting to one now. I know I've been in North Philadelphia. It's a scary place. No child should, deserves to be brought up in a neighborhood like that. When things get worse, people think, they vote more for the Democrats, and they get those policies, and things get worse. And Detroit, Flint, Michigan, they just go down the tube. Now, New York City is an exception to the rule where it was going down the tubes. It was a scary place. I was there in 1990, and they did something strange. Even though they're mostly Democrats, they started voting for Republicans, and they did for like 20 years for mayor, and things got much, much better. So I think that story needs to be brought out to them, that their lives and the future of their children depends on moving away from this proven failure. And there's this huge conflict of interest because the Democratic Party, which is the most powerful organization in the United States, it gains the most from destroying people's lives and destroying neighborhoods. All they have to do is destroy a neighborhood, and people will vote 90% plus for the Democrats. All they have to do is get them out to the vote. So I think that's a story that could resonate, being that you asked.
Well, Dana, also, when you talk about Philadelphia and the spiral, a very good example in Philadelphia is the school system. By the way, you talk about Cleveland, 95% vote Democrat. In the last presidential election, there were 59 voting districts in the city of Philadelphia encompassing over 19,000 votes, where Mitt Romney did not get a single vote, by the way. But
that story is out there. It's amazing. They probably were voting 90% plus for Obama, and the rest was criminal corruption, would be my guess. What's your guess, Rick?
Oh, my guess it is. But you're thinking 19,000 votes. Let's say every one of those 19,000 people intended to vote for Obama. Don't you think there'd be 1 or 2 or 3 that would push the wrong lever?
By accident.
By accident, yeah, that's what I'm saying. By accident. But, the school system, what I wanted to use as an example is the school system in the city of Philadelphia is totally broke. In fact, last year they closed 7 schools because the school population is shrinking, and yet it's a system mired in debt. So they're trying to sell the 7 properties. They believe they can get $35 million out of them to help cut the debt, but it's a continuous trip back to Harrisburg, the state capital, to beg the state to bail the city schools out. And yet people don't see this, and they continue to vote for Democrats in the city of Philadelphia.
That's right. It's like I'm slipping on his name, the guy that theory of relativity.
Newton?
Einstein. You know, Einstein, he gave a definition, it's sort of humorous, but he said that, insanity is doing the same thing and expecting different results. And if that's true, almost everyone's insane in some way or another, but it's very foolish and destructive to do that, and that's what's happening. And so not only is there no one in the media pointing out that the Democratic policies in these big cities are proven failures to just make things worse and worse and worse, but where's the RNC? Where's the Republican Party leadership on this issue? This is a great issue for them, and they're not even mentioning it, which raises the question, are they really trying to win elections or not? I mean that's a very radical concept, but Rick, I did a survey. I gave a speech on this in Reno, and actually Sharon Angle was in the crowd when I did it, and it was, the conservative leadership of Reno. There's about 50 people there, and after we went through 25 questions like, what are the RNC doing about the news media or the public schools to indoctrinate people into being Democrats, we took a vote. 40 people voted that the RNC was purposely trying to lose elections. 10 people didn't vote. Not one person voted that the RNC was trying to win elections. And the chairman of the Republican Party in Washoe County was there. Interesting, huh?
Very interesting. John, are you back with us? I know we had a little technical problem.
Yeah, I heard you here on this side. So, all right. So, how do you think we can get people to pay attention to some of these things? What do you think about preaching to the choir versus the general culture?
Right. That's right. I'm glad that, like for AUN TV, that we're going into, we're going to be in Nancy Pelosi's district, actually have a tower in Nancy Pelosi's district. I'm glad that there's UC Berkeley and Stanford there. I did events in San Francisco where I had very conservative, speakers, and we had like 800 people spend $10 to go to the events. So there are plenty of people that will listen. And I think the way to reach them is, because what I did it over is over corruption and controversy and things that are being censored. That appeals to a very wide group. Policy wonky issues, much less so. But I had like Larry Nichols and Larry Patterson, and the fact that Clinton was involved with the Barry Seal and the drug running and things like that. That appeals to everybody. And a story, I think the biggest, censored story of our time is the Ron Brown case. And he was the most powerful African American in the government at the time of his death. And it's easy to prove that there's a cover-up on that because we had the photographs and the x-rays of an apparent .45 caliber bullet hole in his head. I think that is the type of thing that could pull in the Philadelphia market.
Well, to the answer, I think Rick Trader's question earlier, you think being controversial,
Actually, John, we're right up against the break, so we're going to have to hold that for the next time that we have Dana on. So, John, wrap up, please.
All right, well, thank you. This is Dana Allen with American Uncensored News Network. What's your website so people can follow you and get involved?
Oh, thank you. It's AUN-normal-TV.com, and we do have stories up there, and we have some videos, and in the fairly near future, we'll have live television being broadcast from the website.
Thank you very much, Dana Allen. Back to you, Rick Trader.
All right, with that, we're absolutely out of time. We have such great guests, but for right now, we're out of time. We got to run. We got to go. Take care. God bless, and we'll see you tomorrow on the radio.
Thank you for listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show. Huge thanks to our co-hosts, contributors, patrons, callers, and our friends at WNJC 1360 and WIFI 1460, where we broadcast live every Monday through Friday, 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern and 2 to 4 p.m. Central. Look for us on the internet at www.ccrshow.com. Until next time, we are the Conservative Commandos Radio Show, where the newsmakers go to be heard.